that choice of someone joining the open earth ecosystem, what it really means on a deeper, intimate, personal level is choosing to believe that we can do better and we will do better as a planet. It's choosing to have hope. Hope is taking the first step forwards. So let's walk together. Let's discuss great ideas and create without fears. Let's look on the horizon and see that new societies are rising. This is our time to transform, innovate, manifest into form an open earth ecosystem where we each live out our mission, united by a shared vision. It's creativity in action.
As a visionary, what is the most good that I can do in the world? And so I'm often looking for like little fulcrums, like little leverage points where you see like, okay, there's this train that's going like 1,000,000 miles an hour and it's like, we're all like, get on this train or else you're gonna get hit by the train. That's like how the world feels sometimes. But sometimes all you need is just like, oh, there's a place in the tracks where if you just turn that lever, the train could go this way a little bit, right? So it's like, looking for that. And I think you can be strategic and look for opportunities that take humanity into a direction of maybe faster spiritual evolution. And those kinds of projects interest me. But the problem is that most people being in the matrix, it's like 99% of people are like, train staying straight on the tracks. Okay, what is the next piece of the tracks? Okay, we need to start, a new Amazon business. Okay, we need to create a new service. We can do this cheaper. We can create a new internet, and that stuff is happening, and that's cool, but that doesn't excite me like it used to. I think I got to a point where I was like, I've already done that. I've already like proven myself as an entrepreneur. And now it's like, okay, I still see myself as a visionary, but now I just want to like think bigger and think more like for the greater good. So seeing how 99.9% of projects out there are kind of staying in that same, track, it's like when I find a project that is actually thinking a little bit differently, that's actually bringing something really special, that's really like seeing what is like the potential for human beings that is really beyond like all the assumptions that we think like human beings have to be this way. And we start thinking beyond how human beings have to be, then I think you start really tapping into like a really beautiful vision of a beautiful world for human beings like truly flourishing.
Yeah.
And I initially found out about this project through my ex-partner, and she was telling me first about FLOWRA, which I hope we get into a little bit today. And then I was like, okay, this is like a land project. This is like a community. I'm really interested in that because I think there's so much good that can come from, physically creating a community in a village. But then when I found out it was actually a lot more than that, it was actually like a whole vision for how human beings could be, a whole philosophy for understanding the potential that really goes beyond just like one community. So once I found that out, I was like, ooh, my excitement is tingling here.
Yeah.
This is, I got to know this guy. So it's just been really an honor and a blessing to get to know you and to be able to ask so many questions on this project. And I have some more for today in mind that I haven't asked yet. But I just want to say thank you for having me and letting me understand this project and feel excited about what you're doing.
Thank you. I really received that. And yeah, likewise, since we met, there's been an easy flow of conversation. And it's beautiful when people actually want to understand further and don't stop at, oh, that's possible, that's not possible, but ask, why is that possible? How does that work? Help me understand. And that's been very refreshing to receive that from you. And I think in the theme of what we're going to discuss today, that's very important, is to have the curiosity to ask the deeper questions, to ask why are things a certain way, and is that the base reality of those things? Like are humans inherently selfish and doomed to self-destruct? I think that's a question that a lot of people automatically tend to assume that yes, there is some very toxic aspects, but I would disagree totally. I think humans, just like any animal, have survival instincts, have reactive behaviors, have tendencies to act in ways of self-preservation when subject to dangerous situations. I think that's a very natural and authentic part. But those behaviors are only the case when there is that perceived danger. And humans as a species have evolved to a level where we can be in very high realms of expression, high realms of consciousness, where we can have a lot of love for each other, a lot of love for our tribe, for our common future, seeing bigger picture, conceptualizing a whole humanity, and acting on behalf not just of ourselves, but as a whole humanity. Now, that reality is also just as real. And a big part of the inspiration in the open earth has been to understand that the reason we're in the situation we are today on the planet is not just by accident. It's that way, and we're acting in this destructive way because we're in unhealthy, self-perpetuating loops of, destructive behavior where there's unsafe environments that yield scarcity-driven behaviors, and where I need to compete against you to be better in class or to, whether it's get a better grade or a better job or better wage or better girlfriends or a better car or whatever the story is that impacted the individual. There is a systemic case of if I'm not better then because I'm somehow feeling inferior then, actually, then I'm in danger, and therefore I need to act competitively, I need to act aggressively to secure my own interests. And that behavior is very systemically enforced in many of the systems of the current society, and it leads to reperpetuate unsafe environments. Then you bring up your child and you're teaching them all of these unsafeties that you have learned about, because in that caring way you also want to keep them safe. But that creates a mass society where every layer is emanating the same thing. Now, does that have to be the way? No. It is the way right now, but there are ways out of it. And there is hope. There is possibility for the human species to thrive, to be in safe environments, to develop healthy mindsets, to relate to one another from a place of mutual nourishment, not taking what each other has to be better, but realizing that together we can create even more. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that in itself creates the abundance mindset, that in itself creates safe, nurturing environments, that in itself yields positive behaviors and positive development for the next generation. Development to think creatively of how we can get to even next levels of flourishing together.
I'd like to just comment on something that I just thought of. So I got very influenced by Burning Man. And just as you were talking about the abundance mindset and creativity, I was like, this is Burning Man, like what you're talking about. So my first burn, I arrived thinking, well, it might be some kind of festival. I'd heard that it's different, but it has these 10 principles, and one of them is gifting, and another one is decommodification. So what it basically means is like you're there, you arrive, and everything is free, right? And I didn't realize how profound that would feel to be in a place where it's like people are just giving you stuff, like, and everyone's in abundance. So another principle is radical self-reliance.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, like we're not, which basically means we're abundant. Just for this 1 week, we have everything that we need and more. And what it creates is this like feeling of like, wow, it's like kind of like I'm in a family. It's just like everything feels safe. And then what flourishes from that is so much creativity.
Mm.
It's one of the most creative places I've ever been. And I think one of the reasons is that it starts with that abundance, with that prosperity, with that safety that comes from like, oh, I'm not going to run out of stuff because I have everything I need and there's more coming my way. So just wanted to relate
Yeah,
that that's how I'm relating to what you're talking about.
absolutely. That's an excellent example. Because you're entering a space where the common agreement is these principles, those 10 values of Burning Man, there's a field that's upheld by every person. There's no one that has to go around and say, you know, you need to feel more abundant about this. So you like that doesn't exist, right? Because you enter into a space where that behavior set is the assumed way of social relating, is the assumed way of how you live. And if someone acts out of that because they're new to it or something, they're most likely going to be lovingly steered back into it by either the people or the context, or they'll just realize on their own, right? And that's the power that the context we are in has on us, the field we are in has on us. I experienced something very similar to that in my first rainbow gathering. And I entered into a space where 600 people were self-organizing with no leader, and 2 meals were getting cooked a day for 600 people by self-organized groups of volunteers, all the way until everyone getting fed and everyone being taken care of for a month. Like, that's a pretty enlightening experience of what humans are capable of. And that was with very minimal infrastructure and relatively low access to necessities, let's say. But everyone was happy, healthy, thriving. And you're in a field of love where I noticed in myself some of my individualistic behaviors that were coming from the typical world that were there in the first few days that were incompatible with that field. And they quickly got ironed out into acting on behalf of the whole. I had resistance come up of saying, oh, why can't I do this? Because that's going to help me in my comfort, but it's going to decrease the comfort of many others, right? And so the point here is that these fields are very potent, and we both have had experiences where you can enter into a different energetic environment and have a totally transformative revelation of what human interaction can be like. And that's the exact same principle of why the old world, as it is, upholds itself as it is too. You enter into that society and you receive the assumed behavior sets, the assumed ways of relating to be able to cohere and play the game of that society. And if you don't, and you talk to someone impolitely in a work setting or something, you're going to be quick to find out that there's a different way you need to behave in that situation. And that field self-perpetuates itself. That field holds together that frame. So we absolutely can enter new frames. People have done it. There are many cases who have done it, even communities around the world who have done it for prolonged periods of time, ongoing basis. But it takes a recalibration to it, and it takes the openness to really believe that it can be, and to experience it firsthand becomes unquestionable.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what's really exciting about this to me is that it's not just about, hey, like Burning Man and Rainbow Gathering, like we can create these new frames now. But then what's really exciting about it is when you start thinking about next generations.
Yep.
So like my brother just had a daughter, and the first thing I just thought of was that blank whiteboard. They're, when they're that young, it's just there's so much neuroplasticity. It's just like totally like a blank slate.
Yeah.
And if she had been like raised by wolves or something like that, like she would be such a different person growing up than being raised in this family, and even just different cultures, being raised in different cultures. Like you can tell just the way that we have to condition our young to in order to adapt into this world. A lot of it happens on purpose. A lot of it happens unconsciously. But we have to adapt. We're speaking the language. We're speaking English right now. We know the kinds of codes of how to act, and so this goes deep down from when we were very, very young.
Yep.
So when we start to reprogram how we can really be raised, that to me is like this is like a potential of human beings that hasn't been seen before.
Absolutely, yeah. When you don't have the trauma that you have to unwind, like people like us have done, in the years of our life, to unwind the things which were not beneficial. If you start from the beginning with only the beneficial, healthy, thriving attitudes, behaviors, energies, loving interactions, the system of the human never has to shut down, never has to recoil and protect itself from an impending threat. I mean, there can be micro threats and things in the environment and things that are scary and things you learn to deal with. That's a natural part of growing up. But these additional layers of fear that are imposed and these additional beliefs and things around your sense of worth and your need to prove and that your place in this world and what's expected and like all of that stuff is not necessary. And when you come to a different form of education, it's just like your point, right? The child of your brother, has this opportunity as a young child to receive only the positive codes, the positive message, the behaviors. And for me, this is what makes me so passionate about FLOWRA. So FLOWRA is our research and development living lab project imagined in another island of Indonesia, in Sumba. And for us, what FLOWRA is the epitome of human flourishing. It's thinking at every layer of society, every subsystem of a society, what would it take for that to be in flourishing? So what would flourishing currency and value exchange look like? What do flourishing homes look like that regenerate us in every moment where we're in it? We're getting boosted and amped up to feel healthy. We sleep amazing nights. What does regenerative, healthy, nourishing food look like? And what is the culture that people who are there are embodying that is regenerative in itself, that is constructive? And this doesn't mean that it's like la-di-la-di-la, everything flies, whatever. There's a misconception of this just like hippie, all is love type of way. That's not what I would consider a regenerative culture. That has some ingredients that we can learn from, for sure. But a regenerative culture is one that is sometimes confronting, where we look at issues in the face and we talk about them openly and we don't avoid them, but we bring love and good reasoning and we listen to each other and we understand how we can find solutions together and we listen to each other's needs and really work together as a tribe. Well, each person taking leadership in the things that they're good at and developing themselves to become better humans and sharing their experiences with others. Okay, I'm raising a child and there's a frame, there's maybe qualified people who are in a teacher role who are supporting that, but every parent in a community should be able to empower each other with what they've learned along the way and hold that space to support a new parent, for example. So this is where the regenerative culture is like paramount and maybe one of the most important ingredients to actually have a regenerative society. Because from that internal and shared social culture, we can easily manifest all the other things to regenerate us too. Now with FLOWRA, we're taking an all-in-one approach that we already are embodying a regenerative culture to the extent that we can in designing it, in relating as a team, and the people who have mobilized to come together to make this project happen. And then we're thinking from the beginning, okay, what do the buildings look like, the gardens, the this, the that, all of it, to also embody that. But it's not what's going to make it successful. The culture translated into a new way of being in that type of society is ultimately what will make it successful. So it's crucial, and I'm super passionate about this because my background is in psychology, and then studying culture, studying consciousness, even writing a thesis in university about how group behavior works and how an individual starts to dissolve in some ways into a group and be in service to the whole, as if that group is their whole family. It's called identity fusion. You start to act as if that group is your whole family. And even in a case of threat and scarcity, you behave in a way which is pro-social, in a way that is supporting the well-being of the group. It's so reductionist and just untrue to say that humans are inherently only selfish and only going to yield extractive and self-benefiting outcomes. Put them in the frame where that's expected, and they will. We have a global proof, a huge experiment happening right now. But put them in a frame where it's regenerative, like the Burning Man, like the Rainbow Gathering, or the flourishing society that we can design to truly embody this at all scales, and a totally different evolutionary behavior set is going to come out that sustains even if there's a threat. And that's been very eye-opening to realize this, and now to be working on not only making it happen, but making it happen in a way where at every step we can learn from what it took to make it happen and share that knowledge openly to the global network to empower all people who are willing to try as well.
It's a really interesting and exciting idea. There's pockets of it happening, right? So we talked about Rainbow Gathering and Burning Man, but those are kind of more temporary experiments, right?
Yeah.
So then there's the other side, which are the community experiments that are permanent, that are there. And what's neat is that we can go and visit them, and some of them have programs where you can like stay there and feel into it and integrate and ask questions and understand how it's done. The one that pops into my mind is Pachamama in Costa Rica, because it seems like it's pretty sustainable and has a really nice spiritual foundation, and it's also bringing in like new energies. So it has sort of that open earth kind of idea where it's like, yeah, like it's a bubble. It's like kind of in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica, but at the same time, there's people who come in who lead retreats and different kinds of workshops, and they come in and they bring their ideas, and everyone in the community learns and benefits from that. So I would love to talk a little bit more about how you envision these different communities being open and learning from each other, more than what's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. And thankfully, there are many great examples around the planet. One that I've connected to very deeply is Damanhur. It's a community in the northern mountains of Italy that's now about 40 years old, I believe, and has 600 people living there full time. So one of the reasons it's interesting is because it takes a lot to last that long with that many people. So that something is going right. And upon visiting Damanhur, one very prominent thing is there's a shared purpose that is uniting all of the people there. Now, I think that's true for a lot of these communities, but what I've noticed is that the stronger the aligned direction is and is embodied by the whole, the more resilience there is in the face of things which may challenge that direction. So Damanhur is a great example of a community that feels deeply in service to the well-being of the planet. And they are operating at the level of the spiritual plane, so they're not necessarily focusing too much on the organic permaculture and good buildings and stuff. They have initiatives and that are doing that, but their main focus is like spiritually recalibrating the planet and doing very profound and high-level missions to support this recalibration of the more subtle layers of our planet. That mission has been so strong that it has unified everyone there to realize that this is the thing of the most primary importance to bring us together and to make things happen. Because the road is not easy in community or in any evolutionary movement. So we need something that brings us together. So to answer your question, talking about what does that look like to really collaborate at a global level, to share information, to work together? Well, in inquiry of answering that, I focused myself fully on channeling and writing the Open Earth Manifesto, because the Open Earth Manifesto speaks exactly to this. It says, we have what we need to come together. For those who are willing, it's a call to action. Let's come together and work and combine our best talents, our best ideas, our best resources to create a better world for everyone. It's a very simple idea. If you believe that we have the potential as humans to create a better reality and you're willing to take part, then join us in creating an open earth. That's the base premise of pretty much all of the work I do. I want to try and be as least polarizing as possible, because I myself am a very spiritual man. I have spiritual practice. I do all sorts of things that some people would think are weird. But many of those people who would think are weird are also good-hearted and want to contribute to a healthy and thriving planet. So for me, it's important not to lead with the spirituality as the reason why we're coming together. Damanhur did do that, and that attracted those people that could support that mission, which is a spiritual mission. But for me, it's about, okay, let's lead with a simple idea and as little dogma as possible, and just base principles, 5 values to create a better world, right? So those values are value of openness, right, which is being, that's the overall value, but being transparent and sharing what we know. You know, I have a solution for this and you might benefit from it. I'm going to transparently share it with you. It's the value of being inclusive, saying everyone has a seat at the table to be able to participate. There's solutions that we can think about this together, and every voice is important, right? It's about a value of being innovative, right? We need to think beyond the limits of what we think are possible. We need to find solutions to challenges that aren't currently existing. And to a large extent, the current capitalist society has done a great job at being innovative, but it's come at the expense of many other things, including human well-being and including planetary and ecosystem well-being. So innovation is great, inclusivity is great, openness, you know, is important. All of those values are important, but without a shared direction towards creating a healthy world, that is the most important. Is let's do all of those things in an open and connected and collaborative spirit, which is the last value I didn't mention, is collaboration, working together versus against each other. But we got to do it in the same direction. Now, everyone's got a different way they do that. You know, some people, you know, like my partner has an amazing sustainable clothing company. Some people have sustainable food concepts, and other people are working on optimizing supply chains. Other people are scientists. There's like an amazing variety of possible ways we can contribute ourselves towards a positive future. So all that's important is that we align on saying, what is that future? And so the Open Earth proposes that that future is an open, healthy, and thriving Earth, a planet where the power of openness, collaboration, inclusivity, and a shared sense of direction brings us to work together to co-create a healthy and thriving planet for all. So that is the simplest and most profound unifying force that has spoken to me and that I've decided to really pursue as a direction. Because from that place, with all of the potential of all of the people who are willing to agree to that, there's a huge amount we can achieve.
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea that has kind of broken down, like, what does it take? Like, what does it take? What are the different aspects? What are the different shared values? And I'm curious, when you say like a shared direction, do you mean like a planetary shared direction, or do you mean like community by community, they have different directions? Like maybe we're a scientific community and we have a shared direction of understanding the world and being able to measure the world, and creating instruments that can better measure the world. And then maybe you have another community of astral projectors and they have a totally different kind of mission, and they have a shared vision. So do you mean like more like a planetary vision, or like communities having their individual shared missions?
Both. So it starts at the planetary level in a very broad stroke alignment, which is basically what I said. We're willing to work together to collaborate with transparency, inclusivity, and innovation in the shared direction of manifesting a healthy and thriving planet. Now, all of those examples you just gave of those communities are held within that. You know, they all are willing to create a healthy and thriving planet for all life, for everyone, not just for themselves. They have that purpose. But then, just as you pointed to very effectively, each community and each person needs to find their specific mission that fits within that. And there's an infinite amount of missions that can fit within that. As you said, from being a scientist to being even videographer and documenting the efforts that are happening and showing the beauty in our nature and in our efforts and in our communities. There's like an infinite variety of ways that we can work within that. So I do think that it's healthy at a community level to have a sub-mission that is like, you know, okay, we are working on perfecting the best bioarchitected and natural building techniques that we can, and we are a team of engineers and and natural builders and people who are here to get our hands dirty and make that happen. That's so powerful because then that focalizes energy into that specific mission. Now, without the open earth, that knowledge could be slowly disseminated and maybe shared to the direct network. But with the open earth, what becomes possible is that there's automatically a global network. There's even an interconnected web, a software system, there's a set of values, there's this context, like we talked about in Burning Man and in Rainbow Gathering, there's this aura, this field that by default of being in it, all that information, all that R&D, all of that deep realization of a certain craft can be shared openly to a network, through a system, which it can automatically find all the people who need it most. Any person who around the world is in a position where they want to build a more sustainable home is able to then access openly the blueprints that that other community has shared. Now, it's not for commercial purposes. It doesn't mean that another person is going to then go and make a business out of it unless that has been authorized from the beginning by those sharing. The purpose of the open earth is to create the openness of sharing information, the interconnectivity of the solutions, and to unify us even when we have our specific mission, in the understanding to achieve that global mission, we need to share all of the things we learn along the way so that other people can apply it and not replicate the wheel, not duplicate and be in a silo and try and do the same thing, because that's exactly what's happening right now all over the planet. There's a lot of positive efforts. There's a lot of great groups, whether it's Damanhur, Finhorn Foundation, Pachamama, there's numerous ones all around the world who are doing the right things and who are taking steps in the right direction. But many times they end up having to relearn and repeat the same lessons, the same processes, redevelop things which others have already got. And that's okay, because that's the stage we're at in this transition. But there is a potential now for us to step into the next stage where we can each really focus on a new innovation or on a certain area of development and share it. And others can still build on that area and focus on that too if they want to. It's not exclusive, it's inclusive, right? But only if they truly desire to take that thing to the next level and focus on that mission in their own organization or in their own community. So interconnecting the planet, sharing the solutions, and creating an environment that invites all of the people to advance coherently towards the same direction.
So nice to not have to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I love how you're thinking in terms of like these kinds of communities and these kinds of projects that are really taking the step forward in the right direction. The first question that came to my mind was when I visit places like Pachamama, or I read books, or I can search the internet, and I feel like there isn't information that is being hidden from me with these things it's already out there. It's already open. Like if I go to a place like Pachamama, I don't think I would ever ask a question that someone would be like, "Sorry, this is our intellectual property." I think generally there's already this feeling of openness. So open earth is like, what is that adding to like what's already happening?
So a big part of the Open Earth mission, and specifically the Open Systems Foundation, that is the philanthropic foundation in service to supporting the emergence of an open earth, right? It's a more action-oriented part, whereas the open earth is like the global vision to unify us. The foundation is set up with the mission to develop what we call open earth infrastructure. So what do I mean by that? There is a certain amount of base tools that once activated will allow this global network to be fully potentialized. Right now, I feel that there is so much value in so many of these different places, communities, organizations all around the world, but it's not fully being able to be shared in a way where others who really need it in the moment they need it are able to find it. Maybe in some cases, some deep researchers research, then figure out that someone's done that, try and get an email with the community, get the information. That's possible, and it happens, but it's a very high barrier to entry for that information interconnectivity. Those people are still open to share it and help out, but the potential for that to really empower the most is limited. So when we talk about open earth infrastructure, we are developing the base pieces, the ingredients that can empower the global network, wherever someone is, to better interconnect, to better create value, share value, and work all together, basically, to achieve the common purpose. So I'll give you some examples. One project we're working on is called Weav. It's a digital platform. We released an MVP about a year ago now, or just under a year ago, that is intended to create this environment where multiple communities can have their own presence for themselves, first and foremost. They can organize their community processes. They can map their community resources. They can see who's a member. They can assign different badges and levels to different key community processes that need to take place. And it's also for organizations, roles, functions, mission, direction, sharing updates, sharing articles, having a website for your organization that shares it to the world. So this is a quite complex software suite that partners and longtime co-creators in Malta have been developing that goes under the broader name of the Creativerse. So this Creativerse is designed to empower any person around the world to express and develop their creativity in coming up with either a business concept, solution, a community, a social context, a network that they're inspired to manifest into the world. So with that project, we're taking quite a widespread approach that goes even beyond just the open earth. But then anyone who starts to use this platform to create, be it someone making a business to help them thrive on an individual level somewhere, across the world, or a community using it to help manage their whole operation, they get to be empowered by that tool, and they get to see their operation be supported by a digital infrastructure that makes their life easier. Now, gradually, that begins the on-ramp into joining the open earth. Gradually, they get suggestions of how they can do things more sustainably, more regeneratively. They get connected to supply chains that are within the system already that may be even more cost-effective than the existing ones they're operating, but allow them to have a sustainable alternative, right? So there's numerous ways. We won't dive into it now. This Creativerse and the Weav platform, which is essentially what the Weav platform does, is each of these individual creative manifestations on the Creativerse, as we said, be it the shop, the community, the network, the events, each of those are individual on the Creativerse. They're your creation. They're your manifestation with your own domain, with your own visual, with your totally tailored to you. But the Weav platform comes and interconnects all of these initiatives into a unified web. Now that's why it's called Weav, because it is weaving the global tapestry of impact towards a healthy and thriving future. So if a person on the Creativerse is willing to take steps in the direction of creating a healthy and thriving world and creating an open earth, essentially, then they join the Weav and they can suddenly benefit from all of the synergies with all of the other projects in the Weav, where they have their personal AI assistant that is telling them or suggesting to them different companies, different people to collaborate with, different resources that are available, that is even supporting them in their business, creating an agent to do their marketing, creating an agent to run their accounts. It's a digital home to support them. But the Weav will interconnect all the pieces. And now it means that when that community, which has developed this amazing technology for building homes, they develop that process, they document it within the implementation on the Creativerse, which is called whatever that community is called. They share it with their community, they go through their rounds. That can all stay within their thing, but at some point they're ready to share it to the open commons. At some point they're ready to share it to the broader network. It's all already on there. All they have to do is give the permission and share it to that network. And then automatically the Weav platform is gonna have that intelligence that exists and be able to match it to the right people. And that could also look differently. That could be, we have almost finished to develop our housing concepts, but we don't know how to do a smart plumbing system that is cost effective and resource efficient and can scale. So at that point, that project might say, this is what we're doing, we need this piece, and they may put it out to the global network, And then anyone on the platform who is already having the competency and the ability to participate in supporting that will be somehow woven in and suggested if they want to take part. And they can develop it, and they can even have a financial incentive to develop it, depending on the use case, depending on the scenario. So it's a platform that's all about enabling this interconnectivity, because I truly believe that we have all of the solutions and to solve most of the global challenges, and those that we don't have, we have more than enough human potential to figure them out. So if we know that that's true, all it takes is to interconnect the solutions and help activate the human potential. So that's why this technology side, this open earth technologies for supporting the health and thriving the planet, is an essential area for us to invest in, for us to develop, to interconnect all of the value that's already here.
Oh, totally. I just want to say that I was looking recently for housing here in Bali, and I was living in a guest house, and I'm new to Bali, so I'm still kind of getting rooted. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave the guest house. I'm ready to move to, a monthly place. And I was like, how do I find these places? I was like, okay, I guess I'll start on Facebook. Stuff is happening on Facebook. But it was so disorganized. I had to join like 6 different Facebook groups, and then still, like, that was only like some of the stuff. And then the way that like the listings were presented was so like inefficient. Like, some of them didn't have the right information, some of them didn't have the right pictures. And then still, like, you go around and you look at signs of places for rent, and you realize, like, there's just the world is so inefficient. Like, when it comes to like sharing information, like, we think, yeah, like, we've made great strides, like, because we have the internet. But just this whole housing search really made me realize that when it comes to sharing information, we're still like, really, we have so much progress that we have yet to make.
Yeah.
And so I like this idea, and this is something that when we talked in the past, I didn't really fully grasp how important this platform is, like a integrated place that is really designed to really efficiently make the sharing happen. So that sounds to me like a huge piece of this.
Yeah, it really is an important piece of this, and I love your example. And in that case, you're facing that issue even within one platform, within Facebook only, that information is not unified. Now, I know they've made some efforts with the marketplace and things like this, but still, it's hard to really find what you're looking for. So that's an issue that has manifested in one platform. Now, what we need to think about and what we're proposing with the Creativerse and the Weav platform is every single community, every organization, even every individual who's starting their own projects is going to have essentially the equivalent of their own platform. For some, it will be more like Facebook because the concept is more social. For some, it will be more like Amazon because the concept has products that they need to sell. For others, it will be events. All of this infrastructure is built technologically to be able to provision a platform for people on the Creativerse, from events to shops, marketplace, to social, to have it as a mobile app, not just on the desktop, like literally have your own mobile app for your own purpose. Like, this has been built. So what happens when someone makes it is they have their own version. Now, it would be a total nightmare then to try and find what you need if instead of just one Facebook, you have millions. But that's not the way we designed it. We designed it so that everyone can have their own experience, their own visuals, their own thing. And yet, with the Weav platform, it's all interwoven into one meta experience. If you share that information to the global network or to whichever network or boundaries you choose, you can say, this I want only to be shared to the Bali network. And then no one who's not in Bali would be able to see it. You can choose the layer of integration and communication that you want of any piece of content, from a product to an article to a video, a listing, an event. It can be fully influenced as how far it gets shared. So now someone lands in Bali and they look for all of the apartments that they want, right, and all of the housing, and like in your case, if all of those individual providers were using this platform, they would still have, for example, the real estate agency would still have their own website with their own listings. There'd be a social group of, Ubud culture group that would have their own listings. There would be numerous subdivisions where groups that would have their own listings, just like the Facebook group right now, just like the real estate agencies right now. And that would be useful in its own way because members of the Ubud social group would first look there amongst their peers of people for things that they want. But all of those groups having their own listing would still be able to integrate into one meta listing that is on a different portal, on the Weav portal, that is receiving the streamed information is being delivered from each of those places, even if they're stored in different places, some on servers, some in the cloud, some here, some there, all get diffused to one common place where you can search for what you need. And it even goes further than that, that it's not just a platform you can look at, it's also your personal space. As a creator, the first part of your creativerse is your creator pad. It's your dashboard. It's your place where you have all of the things that matter to you, all of your goals, your travel plans, your projects you're working on and developing. It's your creative hub. And within that creative hub, you could tell your assistant that now with AI, we have this capability to do this. We're only a few steps away on the development side, where you could say, I'm going to be looking for a new house in the next 2 weeks. This is when I'm moving out, if it didn't already know that. Can you help me? And then without you having to even do anything over those next 2 weeks, it will be already identifying and scanning the whole network and even proposing to you within your dashboard, without you even needing to go anywhere, all of the options. So this is a future that we're heading into. There is no doubt that the technology is able to do that. But when you think about it in the mindset of a closed organization and as a Facebook or as an X, right, Twitter, or as an Amazon, then the question is always, this is my ecosystem, and then if someone leaves, then there's no connectivity usually, unless they're within the same ecosystem, right? Because in the capitalistic model, it's all about retaining as much customers to yourself so that you can get more profit and survive better, right? But in the open model, it's a totally different picture. That interconnectivity is by default within the philosophy of what's being created. So all of those values being exchanged, all of that network being developed is by default connected and by default interfindable. So it doesn't matter if you have your own thing and I have my own thing and they have their own thing. It's great to be individual. It's not about everything the same. It's not a communist or green and spiral dynamics philosophy. No, it's higher consciousness than that. It's everyone individual. Everyone gets to express their creative side, and that's the teal part in spiral dynamics, or yellow, and everyone is interconnected. Everyone is part of a shared network. Everyone is in a global movement, right? And that's where we get to the turquoise level in spiral dynamics. That's the level of I'm individually expressed and I'm part of a collective that is doing something beneficial for everyone. So we embed these higher consciousness values within our technology, within our organizational systems, within our financial systems, within every part of the Open Earth movement. And as the Open System Foundation, we really do our best to develop the infrastructure that enables others to go ahead and do it, right? We're not trying to make all of it happen. We're just trying to build the infrastructure that allows everyone else to make it happen together. Like we have to do it together. There's no other way. This is a global movement.
Yeah, and another piece of it that you didn't really mention, you're emphasizing that, this is a higher consciousness idea, but there's a piece of me that's like, well, yeah, but like businesses still want to make profits. Businesses are still driven by incentives.
Yeah.
So if the only case that you could make is like, let's ascend to higher planes together, most companies will be like, have fun with that.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, what's in it for me? What I like about this is that there's no reason for them not to join the network.
Yeah.
They actually would get more business by joining the network because there would be customers there. There would be people who are like, this is the better platform. People like me looking for a villa for rent, I would love to have just like one place. So that's the first place I'm going to go, is I'm going to check Weav and see if there's something like that I can do, so I don't have to join all these Facebook groups and then unfollow all these Facebook groups, and then that's just one piece of it. Like, what if there's just one thing? So people like me are going to be there. So the more people like me that are there, the more businesses are going to want to be there, because then they're going to find more customers there. So it's not just about the higher consciousness, it's also about the bottom line.
Absolutely. And that echoes the value of inclusivity, we're inclusive to all people. And we acknowledge that some people also, and some organizations also, are still totally within a paradigm of extraction and of closeness. And we still want to include them into stepping into something else. Because gradually, if they choose to, they may choose openness. There's no way that you can be open and then say, if you're not open, you're not included. Then that's not open, you know? So by default of being open and inclusive is welcoming everyone. Now, that being said, we still have an agenda. Our agenda is to create a healthy and thriving planet. So we're still going to make it even more compelling for the people who are participating in creating a healthy and thriving planet. You know, on the Weav platform, on the Creativerse, if you're an organization that is participating in the open earth, there's of course levels of how much you're participating in, just a bit or a lot. Like there's many ways we can get into how that works. But if you're participating, you get all sorts of other incentives. You can even generate points within the platform, you know, creative fuel. You can receive access to even using the platform for free, right? Or even getting boosted. If you have a product that is, you know, proven to be much better and has community review and is even, you know, just an overall better product for the planet and the people, then it is going to get promoted naturally by the platform without that person needing to pay anything for it. So right now, how does advertising work? Advertising works with the person or the company who can pay the most for something is the one who's going to get the most exposure. Now, also, if their message is good and it's, you know, it's well targeted, then they'll need to pay slightly less. But the playing field of capitalism is the one who has the capital is the one who is able to get access to more exposure to generating more capital. That's kind of how it works. Whereas in the open system and in our open organizations, like the PASEO and the Creativerse and Weav, it's a different incentive set. You can't pay your way to the top. And there is no top, there is only the collective space. But if you're doing something really positive for the planet and you're doing something which is benefiting people, the more you engage in that open philosophy, the more you're naturally going to get exposure. So it becomes more and more attractive for all people to want to engage in that because they can get amplified. But as they get amplified and the more they engage in it, it also means they're letting go of some of the mainstream capitalist values of extracting more for myself, because they're engaging in behaviors that are more supportive of the thriving of the whole. So it's a natural incentive pathway that gradually invites anyone who's willing to step into the new philosophy to do so, and it makes it quite interesting for them if they are.
Yeah, this is, I feel like this is a rabbit hole. I don't know if we want to get into this, but I'm really interested to know about how to create alternative incentive structures. Because I think that also reflects part of the reason that I'm very intrigued by this whole project idea, is that it's not just this pie in the sky vision. It's also like a practical how. It's also like understanding where we are now, and then why people would take that next step in that direction. And it's not just about, like, you know, selling something that people don't want. It's working within the structure now.
Yeah.
Like understanding where the incentives are now. So when you talk about creating new kinds of incentive structures, maybe to preserve Pachamama,
Yeah.
not the community, the big Pachamama.
Mama Earth.
Yeah, Mama Earth. You know, that to me is like something that a lot of my friends have been thinking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole discussion. I don't know if you want to have that now, but I find that very interesting. Like how do you create these incentives?
Yeah.
Like who decides? Like who decides what businesses are eco-friendly? Right? And who decides who gets to decide, right?
There's definitely many rabbit holes in that, and the biggest bottom line is we decide. By we, I mean the whole movement, because it's a distributed movement, and the highest value set is creating a healthy and thriving planet for all life, based on the 5 principles. So by default of being a peer-to-peer movement, you have the empowerment at every level of the system to report, even within software, if something is aligned or not aligned. You know, any person, not some authority that's checking if it's organic or not, any person can check and can give their feedback and their authentic truth about it, right? So we want to distribute as much as possible the authority within the system, while the highest authority being the shared reason we come together, the shared processes to keep it structurally integral, and yeah, the shared direction. So a very good place that we can take this to explain this concept further is by introducing the concept of a PASEO. So we talked about this previously, right? PASEO is a new form of organization that is part of the things that the Open System Foundation is developing. And it stands for purpose-driven, altruistic, syntropy energizing organization. Now, I'm not going to dive into that right now. We have extensive documents and a possibility to learn about that if desired. But essentially what it is a purpose-driven organization that is creating towards a healthy and thriving planet. So we have this global vision, creating this flourishing, healthy and thriving planet. And then that organization chooses its purpose within it and says, okay, I'm going to work on creating the modular home that enables all communities, whether underprivileged or privileged, to access better quality housing that is supporting their thriving and is using sustainable materials. As an example, can be anything, but let's use that one. That PASEO now is using the infrastructure, the creativerse, to run their business, to support them if they wish. They don't have to, but it's going to really support them, and it even helps them learn about the PASEO within it. Now, what makes this organization type unique compared to other purpose-driven organizations is that it integrates within it an intelligence to interconnect with every other organization of this type. A good metaphor that we can bring out to explain this is mycelium networks. So mycelium, for those who don't know, is essentially the mushroom layer that lives underneath the Earth and within the Earth's surface that is interconnecting pretty much the whole planet. And scientists have studied mycelium quite extensively. It has a very unique way of behaving. It is fully distributed. It has nodes. It has different paths doing different functions, but all resources and all processes and information gets shared and distributed throughout the whole mycelium. There's very interesting experiments where a forest catches on fire on one side, right? And the mycelium network communicates that message to create a biological response in wildlife and trees on the other side of the forest, which is far away from the fire. That information is already there, and they're already changing the way they're storing their water and everything to adapt to this impending threat. So coming back to the PASEO model, we've designed these organizations in a way where by default of being an organization, you are embodying the Open Earth values, which means being collaborative, inclusive, transparent, with all of the other PASEOs. So this building company, right, this making this modular home, is now in a position where they need to develop their sewage system, like we talked about for the toilets and everything, right? In this case, there may be another organization that will be identified through the Weav platform that is already working on that solution. So now that organization is not just going to sell their solution to them like you would in the capitalistic world where you have a product, someone needs it, you sell it at the market rate so that you can survive and make your mission work as an organization. That's how it works in the current society. In this case, that PASEO is going to provide it to the other PASEO at a lower price than they would to the open market. They would provide it at a price that they can afford, right, while still being sustainable. It can still have some margin, but it will be less because they understand, and they're in a framework that understands that we're heading in the same direction, that we're all trying to create an open earth. So if you're creating an open earth by making those buildings, and I'm creating an open earth by making a sustainable sewage system, then we're doing the same thing. So I need to help you as much as I can within reason, without degrading myself, to make it happen. So that PASEO then is able to provide that at a lower price. And that means that that organization's end product is also going to be a lower price. And that's one example, but you integrate that across every part, the one making the lighting system, the appliances, the materials, the supply chain of the materials, the mine itself. Like, eventually, as this technology spreads in a peer-to-peer fashion, you are able to drop the cost of production to a much, much lower rate for that sustainable housing solution. So it's interesting because one of the potential PASEOs in the pilot program right now is a modular housing thing based here in Bali. And the existing cost of creating a modular home will be between 40 and 50,000 without any integration of PASEOs that you can build, that you can send, someone can buy and can build their own home, right? For a nice home that's bioenergetic, that's integrating with the environment, that's sustainable. So it's already relatively low compared to the housing price typically. Now, if you think of it as a PASEO network, that individual PASEO eventually might be able to get the price of that house to half or more in the future. But let's say you could get a modular house for 25,000. Now, on the open market with the rest of the world, any person who needs to build a house and who will maybe in the future use the Creativerse and the Weav platform to see what are the best options to build a house, what are the best contractors, just like you finding your home, what are the best solutions. That PASEO who's been able to provide it at 25K is instantly going to be way more attractive from a purely monetary basis without even taking into account how much healthier and more sustainable the house is to live in. It's going to be instantly way more attractive because there is the price mechanism. And in economics, especially in the current economics of scarcity-driven systems, there is the price mechanism, right? That states that the thing which is more affordable and a lower price is going to have a higher demand and is going to be more attractive for more people. Combine that with all the other benefits and how cool and innovative that housing looks, you have a winning solution. So the PASEO essentially is an organizational model that leverages the open philosophy and embeds it across the whole network to enable the interactivity of organizations to take place to a degree where the sustainable solutions are going to become way more attractive on the market than the unsustainable solutions across all categories. From organic shop where you buy all of your foods, imagine going to a shop where you can buy healthy and thriving organic food at the same price or cheaper than going to the regular supermarket because every step of the way has optimized to provide that. Now, it may seem too good to be true, especially in things like the food industry, but we've done a lot of modeling of this and there's a lot of development of the concepts, how that works, and maybe it's more expensive to the members of the public, and those inside of the Open Earth movement get an even cheaper price, right? Which further incentivizes people to join the movement, to participate in doing something beneficial, have sustainable organizations, and then shop for cheaper, whether it's for their business, exchanging the materials they need, or as an individual within the ecosystem, getting what they need to support their own thriving, they will also be able to get more for the same value. So we create a value threshold which it gives more within the ecosystem than outside of it. And to include as many people as possible, gradually lowers the price even for those outside of it to be able to start consuming it and be able to consuming it if they don't have the money to do it normally. To reach a point where everyone can be included. So if you just start to visualize what would happen, you're talking about a gradual shift in demand and supply, basically, towards these open earth initiatives. So at first you'd say as a company, well, if I drop my prices, if I do this, I'm going to make less profit, I'm going to be less wealthy, my shareholders aren't going to be happy, or if I'm the shareholder, I'm not going to be happy. That's what would happen in the old world. It doesn't make sense in a world where everyone is vouching for themselves. But in a world where the common benefit is shared by everyone, when you play that game and you operate based on that rule set while still being a sustainable and profitable organization, the rules of the game change. And when we benefit the whole, we get more too, and the whole gives back to us too. We get to go and access those PASEOs who are providing at a cheaper service. And they even got that cheaper price and better products by collaborating and providing with everyone else. So you don't have to count who did what to who. You're all within a field of benefiting each other. And of course, there are currencies, there are ways that we help metrify it to help figure out the best value exchanges and make sure everyone is really at that optimum threshold. That's where the open systems really come in. But for most people interacting with it, it's a no-brainer. They don't need to think about all of that. They don't need to calculate all of that. They just see that they get more value by participating here, whether they're individual or an organization.
Yeah, that's the part that's most compelling for me, is that there's a real incentive beyond like creating an open earth and creating abundance for all. There's a real incentive here today for businesses to participate in this. And just as an example, like I used to do construction. I used to build houses, and there's just so much like waste. There's so much wasted money. Like you hire the wrong contractor, and then not only money, but there's so much like effort that's wasted, so much stress that comes from that. And so much of this could be prevented by just like, you go to a real estate investors association meeting and you get a recommendation of a contractor, and then it saves you just so much money and hassle, and
Yeah.
it's so valuable, that information, right? But sometimes it's hard to get that information. So what you're saying is like the business says, okay, we'll lower our price, but they're actually incentivized to do that.
Yeah.
So just in the same way that I think a business would be like incentivized to lower the price to like make a bulk sale, or lower the price to be like a loss leader, um, they would be incentivized to lower the price in order to gain information that would make their business run much more efficiently anyway.
Yeah.
And the end result is being able to offer a product to the market at a lower price than the competition,
Yeah.
which gives you a strategic advantage.
Yeah.
Which means that like, you see a pencil for 50 cents and you see the same pencil for 40 cents, almost everyone's going to get the 40-cent pencil, right?
Yeah.
And then the 50-cent pencil is like, whoa, what do we do? Like, we have to do something.
And that capitalist company that's making the 50 cents pencil is maybe not even able to drop it to 40 cents. Maybe their cost of production is 42 cents, And once we reach those thresholds where the extractive models are no longer able to compete with the inclusive models, it's going to be a very big critical mass shift, because the consumer tastes and preferences will be fully within the open earth models, right? Industry by industry. It's not going to happen all at once. So be gradual across places. And then there'll be a lot of existing productive industries that have pencil factories and have production materials and stuff, which will not be able to afford to operate the old model. In a world, especially where costs of production are going higher and higher, and inflation is going higher and higher, and like it's getting tougher and tougher already for the businesses to operate. Now, if we were a competitive system and trying to dominate the world with our system, we would say, so be it, we've won. But that's not the point. The point is that we want all of those people to be part of it too. So for all of those people who are getting slowly cornered out of the market, we extend open arms. We say, look, you have great infrastructure. You want to become a PASEO? You want to join a network? You want all your employees and you and your management to be healthy and thriving and to be within this way of operating? Most people, if they don't say yes earlier on, will say yes when they're faced with that situation. So we're including everyone, but it's going to get more and more attractive for people to want to be included when they see that the model that they thought was the way to go, the economic model, the extractive model they thought was successful, is going to be outperformed by an open model.
And you're not even taking into account that consumers may choose, they might say like, oh, I'd rather my money go to a PASEO than another just random organization that I don't know if they have any standards. I don't know if they care about preserving the earth at all. These two products are the same price. Maybe I'll go with the PASEO because they seem like they care about this. So maybe there's also market value besides the price and all this stuff that we're talking about, just market value that you can offer just by being in this organization that cares and that it's publicly caring, and it has a lot of values that I think a lot of consumers care about as well.
Absolutely, that's a huge factor. And I think initially and in the medium term, it will be those who care that are the most active in even starting those PASEOs, right? The people who like have a purpose, want to do good, and know that there's a way to collaborate to do it. They're the initial people joining the movement are already those who care and already those who have a level of consciousness to think beyond themselves and as a whole planet. And that will be the foundation of which the movement is based on. Now, as it grows, more and more people who care but who maybe couldn't afford it before, but who are now at that threshold, will instantly prefer to shift over. So naturally, this aspect of caring about the future of the planet is an important thing. Like, it's very important to what we're doing, but it's not the only thing. And that's the key difference between our initiative and the Open Earth Initiative and many other initiatives that I respect and value. You know, even things like the Venus projects. It's an amazing vision for a resource-based economy of how we can collaborate globally and come together and make amazing things happen. They did such a good job at thinking of how this could work. But the theory is, well, we can all just choose to do this. If we just choose to do this, then we can. They showed how it can work, but we just have to all choose to do it. The choice is ours. It's literally the name of the documentary. The choice is ours. Now, I think that's very beautiful, but it's not very realistic. Humans are entrained in behavioral pathways of how they're going to act. They're in a context of learned behaviors. They're going to go for the cheaper product. They're going to even reinforce the capitalist system, the political system, because they are fruits of it. They have been born in it. So they are enforcing what they know to be safe. This is the nature of human. So I don't believe that it's as easy as just the choice is ours and let's just change this. And that's why everything we do is systemically organized to incentivize all people who, even those who don't care at all about the planet or who don't have the space to think about the future because they're so constricted to think about their own daily survival, which is the case for a lot of people on the planet. Unfortunately, that's the truth of a lot of people. We want it to be appealing even for them to take part. At first, it won't be. At first, it will be for those who are more open and connected and wanting to do something for the planet. But the system is designed to expand in the direction of being inclusive to more and more people, to lower the barrier to entry, whether on the cost, whether on the technological layer with the creativerse, enabling anyone to start their business, and then supporting them to see if they join the Open Earth Network, they can do it even better. All of our approaches are trying to extend out and open and the hands to more and more people to take part, whether or not they understand why it's important. And through the process of taking part, they will gradually be able to understand, oh yeah, when I share openly and when I'm part of this way of being in this new value set, I get more. Now, it'll take those initial people making that value attractive to extend the hand and for others to take part too. Yeah, it does take some initial pioneers that are willing to put in more effort so that it's easier for those after. But it will happen because there are more than enough people willing to do that now. And there's an infinite, the total amount of population that could be willing to join in later when it becomes attractive to them.
Oh, for sure. So I come from California, which I think is it's interesting to see kind of how capitalism evolves. And California, I think, is a good place for that. So I used to live on the East Coast of the United States, and I used to be in this very like okay, I just need to not go bankrupt. So I'd buy like a dozen eggs for like $1,
Yeah.
right? I would go to like my local grocery store, and people with food stamps are going there. Like I didn't care. Like I just like it's eggs for $1. Yeah, like yes to that.
Mm.
And then I found myself later in California buying like the most expensive eggs, right? And part of it was, okay, now I feel like, I'm not right on the edge of going bankrupt every day. But it was also this idea of like, like I actually kind of care about how my money is like a vote, right? Like $1 is like a vote.
Yeah.
And we get to choose with our money, like kind of how we want the world to be, right?
Yeah.
We can support a company that is doing good things, or we can support a company that's doing bad things. And if you have the money to spare, it's just like an easy way to vote for the world that you want, right? Or at least the step in the direction,
Yeah.
right? So I think then you have organizations like B Corporation,
Yeah.
which are really neat because they create this standard for, okay, like what is an organization? They wouldn't use the word conscious organization, but an organization that cares about its employees, cares about the earth, like a triple bottom line kind of corporation, right? And then consumers can, like me, can look for that, and we could be like, oh, cool, this company. And if I'm just making a quick decision, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go with that. So there's definitely companies out there that not only have the incentive to create better products and better services that are triple bottom line better, but they actually genuinely like care. You
Yeah.
know, there's people that's like, okay, like profits, yeah, profits are necessary, but like not only are there customers out there that will better relate to me, but I also feel good about the work that I'm doing now because I'm composting my excess, fruits, or I'm paying my employees better. And I just saw this a lot in California, and it gave me like optimism
Yeah.
that like a system like that, like people would want to buy in, that there would be like people who care and say like, yeah, this is good for my bottom line, but it's also good for the planet. I feel better about the work that I'm doing. I can go to sleep at night and have sweet dreams.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an amazing point. It's already happening. There's already plenty of people that care. And B Corp is great in many ways, and it doesn't particularly empower the organizations to gain greater efficiencies between themselves. Or does it truly delineate different standards of how much social benefit the organization is bringing? It's like a threshold, and then you're a B Corp, and maybe there's some subtle things within that. So it's a great start. I love it. But I think we can go even further. We can have many metrics that someone can see on the open page of that company of how much they're giving and how much they're progressing and where they're going. And for the organization, as a B Corp, as you said, you're going to get more customers already now in the US if in a certain market. But if you're a PASEO, you're not only accessing to more customers like the B Corp, you're also interconnecting with the whole network of PASEOs, lowering your cost of production, producing a good product that's even more accessible, and working alongside everyone else who's in this network to make it happen. Because all of the people who are part of PASEO, all the people who are part of the open earth, are considered within the ecosystem. And they are the ones who can even go and shop, for the healthy food at a lower price than even the open market because they're also participating. They're getting back. So if I'm starting the B Corp now, or in this case the PASEO, I'm not only providing my meaningful purpose for the world while taking care of my people, taking care of my products and the planet and the profit, right? It's not only that, it's also I'm directly benefiting from the network. I'm directly able to receive value and to go and receive back for what I'm doing.
Yeah, the Paseo model to me is um, one of the most exciting parts of it for me. I mentioned earlier on that I'm most excited by the purpose-driven organizations, and this is this is not only a purpose-driven organization. This is like creating an ecosystem of purpose-driven organizations that not only you know makes a community for them, but it makes it better for them to operate. It creates the resources and it creates the sharing economy that allows them to like compete better.
Yeah.
So like yeah, like right now, like you said, the B Corp is great, but they don't have like if I'm in it, I still don't have like the as many benefits as there could be as in the Paseo model,
Yeah.
where now it's like now there's like a deep technology and cultural integration that happens with other companies. So now, not only do I get all these benefits of being a B Corp, but I get to operate more efficiently, and I get to be a part of something that consumers will eventually recognize and value, maybe globally, very highly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm fully dedicated to creating this open earth infrastructure. I think naturally I have a mind for it, and I've been fortunate to meet many others who are aligned with it and who have the minds to really develop and engineer specific parts of it. And the reason I'm so inspired is because I can see that once we have these pieces in place, the movement's going to take off on its own. It's not a case of forever investing money into making this happen to try and make a better world. It's a case of creating the foundational pieces that form a solid ecosystem that we can test and prototype the version 1 ecosystem, and that then it just takes off on its own. People can create their own value because there's so much value within it. Like as we've outlined in just some of many possible examples of how much value it is to be part of this ecosystem. And that can be as a PASEO, as an organization, That can be just as an individual that's not even in an organization. And that could be a free agent, right? It's called a peer-to-peer ecosystem. So every person is a peer and is able to participate in places where they can add value. A PASEO may say, we need a lot of help for this. And there's a bunch of people who are in this ecosystem who are believing in this, say, yeah, I'll come help for a week on the farm and come participate. And I'm going to get certain currency from that, whether it's money or whether it's points that allow me to consume some products within the ecosystem or within that specific PASEO. That's specific to the case, but there's a network and an opportunity to leverage the common shared direction of the open earth at will for any organization and for any person. So it's really interconnecting and empowering the creation of an open earth.
Yeah, I think you're highlighting something that I think is so important, which is that it's, you said that the Venus Project is a beautiful vision, beautiful idea, and there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful ideas out there for, how human beings can evolve and grow. But then when it comes to like, okay, we just need to choose to do it, then I'm like, okay, well, what, is that enough? Like, is that enough to really people are, especially older people we're so like, we have these like default mode networks in our brain, right?
Yeah.
And when we're not actively trying to make a change, then the train just stays on the tracks.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're talking about like a global vision for a whole new world, I think you have to have a how that is really practical.
Yeah.
And it has to be like kind of automatic, like finding that little leverage point, and then okay, now there's a little shift that's happening, and now people can stay in their like default mode network, but now they're going in a different direction. And that to me is like, okay, like I think that could work. You don't need to have like a huge like global panic of like, okay, we need to reset like everything. We need not, like, you can actually kind of continue the way you're living, but now we're moving in a different direction together. That's what I think is cool about this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We have to be practical. We don't have time now to only be visionary. Now is the time to be extremely creative, extremely determined, precise, and open. And openness, as we've talked about, has many manifestations in the creation, but it has to start within. It has to start with the openness to believe that we can do it, the openness to believe that we are capable, we have the potential, and that I, as an individual, can contribute myself positively to this mission. Every person gets to make that choice. Now, initially, it's a harder choice for some people because there's not that much evidence that operating in a new way is going to be better than the old way. But many of us have already made that choice, so it's not such a big deal. We're already here doing it. But in the future, that choice of someone joining the open earth ecosystem, what it really means on a deeper, intimate, personal level is choosing to believe that we can do better and we will do better as a planet. It's choosing to have hope. And in a time when there's so many messages that are being bombarded at everyone of non-hope, of cataclysm, of the end of the world, of the end of the economy, the end of everything, right? So many messages in that direction, somewhat systemically trying to disempower. It's a leap for many people to believe that we can have hope that there is a better way. But I know that as we develop out this ecosystem, as we build the infrastructure, as we open the doors and extend the arms, there will be so many opportunities for people who have lost hope to take small steps in the direction of participating. And gradually those small steps become long distances, and they look back and say, wow, actually I really can see that we're creating a better way because I'm part of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I'm naturally a very empowered person. And so when people talk about these things like, oh, it's like it's all gotta burn down for us to be able to do something. I mean, like maybe, but I think there is a disempowerment there. There's like okay, there's nothing that I can do about this. So there's this idea that people have that it's like there's not the world is just going to do its thing and there's nothing that we can do about it. And yeah, I don't subscribe to that. I think
Yeah.
like, you know, when I talk to people like you and many other people in my world, I see real like changes and real differences being made.
There's a lot of development, and you've had many conversations with me. You've seen down some of these rabbit holes. This is not just a top level idea. There's so much that can be attained, and there's so much more to develop too. And this is why now we're at the stage where we're doing a fundraise. So we've developed out a lot of the open earth. We've prototyped different things. We even had previous fundraisers where we raised a couple of $100,000 to actually test out key parts, like the PASEO. At the time was called the ASPO. But we have already tested different parts of this ecosystem. We've created cultures. We have something called Paradise Earth Culture that is already been tested and has been refined through 3 versions to how we actually can relate in a more conscious manner as individuals and organizations and in communities, right? Our partners have tested bioarchitected buildings and are building eco-villages. There's many parts of this which have been individually tested, but to achieve what we're talking about on the scale we're talking about, that is, now it's time to test the ecosystem. Now it's time to combine the pieces into a shared space. And this is where the Open Earth has been born. This is where the Open Systems Foundation is being born to enable this ecosystemic experiment, this ecosystemic development into the stage of actually birthing the container in the context, like the Burning Man, like the Rainbow Gathering, that it holds itself true, strong enough that others can come in and know what's happening and take part. So that's exactly where we're at right now. And yeah, it's a call. I really, truly call for anyone who wants to take part and either has the resources to participate, has unique models, skills, visions, ways that can empower this movement to hear this call and to join in and to inquire how they can participate. And especially right now, we're looking for generous philanthropists, people who understand that there is a possibility, who have hope in their heart and are just wanting to put it to practical use, wanting to put their resources to practical use with those who they can trust to make it happen. And I strongly believe we have a good shot at making it happen. And we're not going to stop, really. So if you try something hard enough, then you can make it work.
He's not going to stop. Yeah. How long have you been working on this project?
In various forms, in building those pieces, it's been about 4 to 5 years. Yeah. It started with the technology. That's, around the time I met my co-founder, who's in Malta, who has been building the Creativerse under a different name. And we started working on some of these technologies to empower the global network. And of course, it had less of a grand vision at the time and has grown with us as we have grown. And then later on, that evolved from the technology and it evolved into these organizational models. Technology is still continuing, and I focus my time on the ASPO, Autonomous Zero-Point Organization, that has now become the PASEO, right? And then we've tested different currency things. I've been involved in cryptocurrency. I've been involved in barter currency experiments or trade coins. I've experimented different things. And then when I came to Bali 3 years ago, we started a community here. We took over a resort and we experimented community dynamics and learned a lot and failed and learned from that failure. And from that emerged Paradise Earth culture. You can have the best governance in the world, the best decision-making procedure. If people aren't culturally aligned, it's going to break down immediately. And that's what happened. We had governance in our community. We had some procedures, but we didn't have a strong culture that brought us together. We had a strong shared direction, but it degraded, and we didn't have the culture to repair and to bring the community together. And so following that experiment and learning from all the things that can make a community fail, we developed Paradise Earth culture and then have introduced it in various community settings, such as the Rise movement that I have been a founding partner of, running big events and having lots of people come together and embody a certain culture and take it back to their own communities to embody it, give feedback, share it openly. So we've been building up to the stage where we are now, where we have a lot of these ingredients in place. And Now, as I said, it's that time to test the ecosystem. It's that time to bring it all together and figure out the missing pieces. It doesn't mean we have the pieces. We have some of the pieces, and we have some of the experience, and we have some very talented people who are willing to try really hard and to think really smart and really creatively outside of any box to manifest what's needed to make it work. And now that we have the Open Earth Manifesto, that's a unifying framework, and these key early stage initiatives, we're pretty much in position to get going.
The one thing I like about the vision is that it's trying to stay so pure. It's like if like seeking philanthropists versus seeking investors. So there's this expectation we need to make money on this project. We're an investor, we're not a philanthropist, right? And that causes the initial vision to get eroded.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is hey, this is not an investment, the kind of investment where you get a financial ROI. This is a different kind of investment. This is an investment in humanity's future. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Incentives, right? Incentive of the capital. And this is why we're starting the foundation. There are going to be PASEOs that are profit-driven and that even can raise investment capital within the PASEO framework to operate as an organization. We're not excluding the amount of investment capital available in the investable world. But when it comes to setting up the foundational infrastructure that is needed to steward this towards an open earth, it needs to be pure from the beginning. It needs to anchor in the open earth principles no matter what. And that's why it's critical that we raise philanthropically. And I've worked with philanthropists before, I've raised philanthropic money before, and there's something very unique about it. There's a beautiful connection in the heart where we understand why we're doing it. We understand that it's for humanity. And that comes with a giving energy, that when the capital arrives, when money gets raised, that it's not strings attached. There is an expectation that it's going to do good and criteria that we're trying to meet to have a positive results out of integrity for our project, absolutely. But the incentive is to make it happen in the form that was advertised and explained when we raised the money. That is what we're wanting to do, and that's what the philanthropist wants to do. So it means that the people who get involved are aligned in intention, they're contributing their energy positively to the same direction, and the energy that comes, the money form of energy, which is one of them, they also have that personal energy, but the money energy is loaded with the same mission, and it's in an act of giving. And I believe that has a very strong impact on the quality of how far that same amount of money can go. It can have much more impact because it is loaded with that intention.
So who do you envision being interested, like corporations or maybe private people? Like who do you imagine the kind of people that you feel like would be aligned with this project enough to make that kind of donation?
Yeah, great question. In all truth, I'm open as long as the alignment is there and the intention for investing into the future of humanity is present. So that can be from a variety of stakeholders. It could even be one wealthy individual who has already achieved the wealth that they need, who understands that now is the time to act, and who is seeking people who have a grounded approach to actually make a change happen. We are those people. We can do that. We're doing it already. And the money is only going to help amplify it further. So I'm seeking to find, ideally, that one person or that couple, or can be that group, who can really get behind us, support us, not only with their finances, but with their wisdom, with their network, with what they've learned, to make it happen with us. We're looking for a collaborator, for a co-creator, someone who's here to live the dream and manifest a world for everyone. So anyone who wants to reach out, who wants to participate and believes that their input at this stage can accelerate the formation of an ecosystem in a manner which allows the trickle effect for all of the solutions to come in, we welcome that. Hello, my name is Oliver Clarity, and I am the founder of the Open System Foundation. For the last 5 years, I have been on a quest to create pragmatic approaches, systems, and innovations that can support the transition towards a higher consciousness, new paradigm on Earth. And it is through visionary groups like our own and others all around the world uniting and coming together to manifest significant change that things can actually take place in a lasting and enduring manner. We specialize in systems, we specialize in technologies, and it is our desire to connect in an open commons all of the other groups around the world who are doing the same. This is why I've decided to found the Open Systems Foundation to stimulate and activate all of these projects within the ecosystem and support communities, initiatives, organizations, and individuals all around the planet who are here for the same mission, creating a healthy and thriving open Earth, where we all come together, collaborate to manifest tangible outcomes towards a thriving civilization. We welcome you to join us on this journey, extend a heartfelt invitation, and I hope to be in touch soon.